The alarm clock buzzed at 4:30 a.m., just like it had every morning for the past 3 years. Maria rolled out of bed, her body aching from the previous day's double shift. She quickly got dressed in her faded uniform and grabbed her worn-out sneakers. The same routine day after day. Maria had been working at Rosario's family restaurant since she was 22. Now 25, she felt like she had aged a decade in those 3 years. Every morning started the same way, rushing to get ready, checking on her mother in the next room and hoping today would be different. Her mother, Isabella, had been sick for over a year now. The medical bills kept piling up, and the insurance barely covered anything. Maria had watched her savings disappear dollar by dollar as she tried to keep up with the costs. Some nights she would sit at the kitchen table, calculator in hand, trying to figure out how to make the numbers work. They never did. The drive to work was always quiet. Maria would use those 15 minutes to prepare herself for another day, of fake smiles and endless patience. She loved helping people, she really did. But after 3 years of being passed over for promotions and watching newer employees get better opportunities, it was getting harder to stay positive. Rosario's was a popular family restaurant in the heart of town. The morning crowd was always busy, construction workers grabbing coffee before work, office workers getting breakfast to go, and elderly folks who came in for the early bird specials. Maria knew most of the regular customers by name. She remembered how they liked their coffee, what they usually ordered, and even asked about their families. But her dedication never seemed to matter to management. Derek, the assistant manager, had been there for only 8 months, but he acted like he owned the place. He was 28, fresh out of some business program, and he made it clear that he thought most of the staff were replaceable. Derek had his favorites, usually the younger, prettier waitresses who laughed at his jokes and didn't question his decisions. Maria had applied for the supervisor position twice in the past year. Both times, Derek told her she wasn't ready or needed more experience. Meanwhile, he promoted Jenny, who had been there for only 6 months, to shift leader. Jenny was nice enough, but she spent more time texting on her phone than actually working. This particular Tuesday started like any other. Maria arrived at 5:45 a.m. to help with the breakfast prep. The cook, old Tony, was already there, getting the grill ready. Tony had been at Rosario's for 15 years and had seen managers come and go. He was one of the few people who understood what Maria was going through. "Morning, kiddo," Tony said, not looking up from the grill. "How's your mom doing?" "Same as always," Maria replied, tying her apron. "Good days and bad days." Tony nodded. He had lost his own wife to illness a few years back, so he knew the struggle. "You hang in there. Things have a way of working out." Maria appreciated Tony's support, but she was starting to lose hope that things would actually work out. She had been thinking about looking for another job, maybe something with better pay or benefits. But with her mother's condition, she couldn't risk losing the little stability she had. The breakfast rush started at 6:30 a.m. sharp. Maria was assigned to her usual section, the booths by the window. It wasn't the best section in the restaurant. The tips were smaller because most of the morning customers were budget-conscious. But Maria had learned to make the best of it. She served coffee to Mr. Peterson, who came in every Tuesday for scrambled eggs and toast. She brought orange juice to Mrs. Chen, who always ordered the same fruit plate. These people had become like family to her, even though most of them didn't know about her struggles at home. Around 9 a.m., things got crazy. 3 waitresses called in sick, probably hungover from Monday night, Derek muttered. That left Maria, Jenny, and one other server to handle the entire breakfast crowd. Derek didn't jump in to help. Instead, he stood behind the counter, checking his phone and occasionally barking orders. "Maria, table 6 needs their check," Derek called out, even though Maria was clearly overwhelmed with twice her normal workload. "I'll get to it," Maria replied, balancing 4 plates on her arms while trying to pour coffee for another table. Jenny was struggling too. She kept messing up orders and looked like she was about to cry. Maria found herself covering Jenny's tables in addition to her own, because she couldn't stand to see customers getting poor service. By 10 a.m., Maria was exhausted. Her feet hurt, her back ached, and she hadn't had a break since she arrived. But she kept going because that's what she always did. She kept going because her mother was depending on her. She kept going because giving up wasn't an option. That's when she noticed the elderly man at table 12. He was sitting alone wearing an old brown coat that had seen better days. His gray hair was neatly combed, but his clothes looked worn. He was holding the menu with shaky hands, squinting at the small print. Maria could see the confusion on his face as he tried to read the prices. Most of the other servers were too busy to notice him, but Maria always paid attention to customers who seemed lost or uncomfortable. She had learned over the years that sometimes people needed more than just food. They needed someone to care. The man had been sitting there for almost 10 minutes without ordering. Maria knew Derek would be annoyed if a table sat empty for too long, especially during the busy morning rush. But something about the man's expression made her want to help. She finished taking an order at table 8 and walked over to him. "Good morning, sir. How are you doing today?" The man looked up with kind eyes. "Oh, hello there. I'm doing all right, thank you for asking." His voice was gentle, with a slight accent she couldn't quite place. "Take your time with the menu," Maria said. "Is there anything I can help you with?" The man smiled, but she could see worry in his expression. "Well, to be honest, I'm not sure what to order. Everything looks good, but—" He paused, looking embarrassed. "I'm on a fixed income, you know. Social Security doesn't go as far as it used to." Maria's heart went out to him immediately. She knew exactly what it felt like to count every dollar, to look at prices before anything else. She glanced around to make sure Derek wasn't watching, then leaned in a little closer. "Can I tell you a secret?" she whispered. "We have a senior special that's not on the menu. It's a smaller portion of our breakfast combo, 2 eggs, toast, and hash browns, for half the regular price." The man's face lit up. "Really? That sounds perfect," Maria nodded. "And the coffee is free with the special." She didn't mention that the free coffee wasn't actually part of the deal. She planned to cover that herself if needed. As she was writing down his order, the man reached into his coat pocket and then froze. His face went pale. "Oh no," he whispered. "I think I left my wallet at home." Maria looked at this kind old man sitting there embarrassed and worried, and made a decision that would change everything. Maria looked at the elderly man's worried face and felt her heart break a little. She had seen that same expression in the mirror too many times. The panic that comes when you realize you can't afford something you need. The embarrassment of being caught short on money in front of strangers. "Don't worry about it," Maria said softly, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "These things happen to everyone." The man, who had introduced himself as Robert, shook his head. "I'm so sorry. I was rushing this morning because I had a doctor's appointment, and I must have left my wallet on the kitchen counter. I live about 20 minutes away." Maria could see other customers starting to look their way. Some seemed impatient, probably, wondering why she was spending so much time at one table. She knew Derek would notice soon if she didn't keep moving. But something about Robert reminded her of her own grandfather, who had passed away when she was 15. He had the same gentle way of speaking, the same kind eyes. "Listen," Maria said, making a quick decision. "How about I put your order in and you can come back later this week to pay? We know you're good for it." Robert's eyes widened. "Oh, I couldn't ask you to do that. What if your manager finds out?" Maria knew exactly what would happen if Derek found out. He had a strict policy about money. No exceptions, no credit, no freebies. She had seen him refuse to let employees give free coffee to customers who were $1 short. But looking at Robert, she couldn't bring herself to care about Derek's rules. "Don't worry about my manager," she said. "Let me take care of this." She walked back to the kitchen and placed Robert's order with Tony. The cook raised an eyebrow. When he saw the senior special on the ticket, he knew it wasn't an official menu item. "New customer?" Tony asked. "Yeah, sweet old man. He's having a tough morning," Maria replied. Tony nodded and got to work. He had seen Maria help customers before, and he respected her for it. In his 15 years at the restaurant, he had watched the business change. It used to feel more like a family place where people took care of each other. Now it was all about numbers and policies. While Robert's food was cooking, Maria continued serving her other tables. She brought coffee refills, took new orders, and cleared plates. But she kept an eye on table 12, making sure Robert was comfortable. She brought him a fresh cup of coffee and told him it was on the house. "You're very kind," Robert said. "I hope you know that." "We all need help sometimes," Maria replied. "That's what my grandmother used to say." Robert smiled. "Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman." "She was. She raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 8. She always told me that kindness doesn't cost anything, but it's worth everything." Maria didn't usually share personal stories with customers, but something about Robert made her feel comfortable. Maybe it was his gentle way of listening, or how he asked follow-up questions that showed he actually cared about her answers. When Tony called out that Robert's order was ready, Maria picked up the plate and headed back to table 12. The breakfast looked perfect. 2 eggs over easy golden hash browns and buttered toast. She had also grabbed some extra jam packets, the good ones that Derek usually saved for VIP customers. "Here you go," she said, setting the plate down. "I hope everything looks good." Robert looked at the food and then back at Maria. "This is more than I expected. Are you sure about the price?" "Absolutely sure," Maria said. "Enjoy your breakfast." She was about to walk away when Robert called her back. "Miss, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why are you being so nice to me? You don't even know me." Maria paused. It was a fair question. In a world where most people were focused on themselves, why was she going out of her way for a stranger? "Because someone did the same thing for me once," she said. "When I was 19, I was at a grocery store trying to buy medicine for my grandmother. I was 50 cents short, and I was about to put something back when the man behind me in line paid for the whole thing. He told me to pay it forward when I could." Robert nodded slowly. "And now you're paying it forward." "I try to, when I can." As Robert ate his breakfast, Maria continued working. She was behind on her other tables because of the time she had spent with him, but she didn't mind. Seeing him enjoy his meal made her feel good in a way that tips and compliments from other customers never could. Around 10:30, Derek finally emerged from the back office, where he had been hiding during the breakfast rush. He walked through the dining room, checking on tables and looking for problems. Maria tried to stay busy and avoid his attention, but Derek had a way of finding fault with everything. "Maria," Derek called out as she was wiping down a table. "Table 12 has been here for almost an hour. Why hasn't he paid his check yet?" Maria's stomach dropped. She had been hoping Derek wouldn't notice Robert, or that Robert would finish eating and leave before Derek made his rounds. No such luck. "He's still eating," Maria said, trying to sound casual. "Well, get him his check. We need to turn tables, especially during busy periods." Derek walked away, but Maria knew he would be watching. She had to figure out what to do, and fast. She couldn't let Robert leave without paying. That would definitely get her in trouble. But she also couldn't embarrass him by insisting on payment when he had no money. She made another quick decision, one that she knew could cost her job. Maria went to the register and rang up Robert's meal. The senior special came to $8.50 with tax. She opened her apron pocket and pulled out $9 from her tip money she had planned to use for gas on the way home. She walked back to Robert's table with the receipt. "Here's your check," she said quietly. "But don't worry about it, it's already been taken care of." Robert looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, it's handled. You don't owe anything. Did your manager approve this?" Maria shook her head. "No, I paid for it myself." Robert's eyes filled with tears. "I can't let you do that. You probably need that money more than I do." "It's okay," Maria said. "Really? Just promise me you'll pay it forward when you get the chance." Robert reached across the table and patted her hand. "You have no idea what this means to me. I've been going through a really tough time lately, and your kindness has restored my faith in people." Maria felt tears forming in her own eyes. "We all go through tough times. I'm just glad I could help." What Maria didn't know was that Derek had been watching the entire interaction from across the restaurant. He had seen her pay the check with her own money, and he was furious. In his mind, she had violated company policy and made him look bad in front of a customer. As Robert finished his last bite of toast, Derek marched over to table 12. His face was red with anger, and Maria could see trouble coming from a mile away. "Excuse me," Derek said to Robert in a fake, polite voice. "I hope you enjoyed your meal. Maria here will get you your check." "Actually," Robert said, "she's already taken care of everything." "Wonderful service." Derek's smile became even more forced. "Maria, can I see you in the back for a moment?" Maria's heart started racing. She knew this wasn't going to be a friendly conversation. "Can it wait? I have tables to serve. Now," Derek said firmly. As Maria followed Derek toward the kitchen, she caught Robert's eye. He looked worried, like he knew he had somehow gotten her in trouble. She gave him a small smile, trying to let him know it wasn't his fault. But deep down, Maria knew her kindness was about to cost her everything. Maria followed Derek through the busy dining room, her heart pounding with each step. She could feel the eyes of her co-workers on her, and she noticed how conversations seemed to quiet down as they passed. Everyone knew that when Derek called you to the back, it wasn't for anything good. They walked past the kitchen where Tony was flipping pancakes. He gave Maria a concerned look but couldn't say anything with Derek right there. Jenny was at the coffee station, pretending to be busy but clearly listening. Even some of the regular customers seemed to sense that something was wrong. Derek led her into the small office behind the kitchen. It was cramped and cluttered with paperwork, old schedules, and empty coffee cups. The walls were covered with corporate policies and motivational posters that nobody ever read. Derek closed the door and turned to face Maria, his arms crossed. "What was that about?" he asked, his voice cold. "What do you mean?" Maria replied, though she knew exactly what he meant. "Don't play dumb with me. I saw you pay for that customer's meal with your own money. Do you have any idea how unprofessional that looks?" Maria took a deep breath. She had known this moment would come, but she wasn't prepared for how angry Derek seemed. "The gentleman forgot his wallet. I was just trying to help." "Help?" Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think you were helping? You made me look like an idiot in front of a customer. You made it seem like we don't have proper procedures here. I don't understand. The customer was happy. Nobody got hurt." Derek started pacing around the small office. "You don't understand because you don't think like a manager. When you give away free food, even if you pay for it yourself, you're setting a precedent. Other customers will expect the same treatment. They'll think we're a charity." Maria felt her frustration building. "It wasn't free food. I paid for it with my own money, and it was just this once for someone who really needed help." "That's not the point." Derek's voice was getting louder. "The point is that you made a decision that wasn't yours to make. You don't get to decide who deserves special treatment. That's my job." "So you would have turned him away? An elderly man who just forgot his wallet?" "Yes, that's exactly what I would have done. We have policies for a reason, Maria. We're not running a soup kitchen here." Maria stared at Derek in disbelief. She had worked with difficult managers before, but she had never met someone so completely lacking in compassion. He wasn't asking for charity. He was willing to come back and pay later. "I just thought it would be easier to handle it this way." "Easier for who? Easier for you to play the hero?" "Let me tell you something, Maria. This isn't about being nice. This is about running a business, and in business you follow the rules or you find somewhere else to work." The threat was clear, but Maria couldn't back down. Her grandmother had always taught her to stand up for what was right, even when it was difficult. "I've been working here for 3 years, Derek. I've never missed a shift, never stolen anything, never caused any problems. I helped one customer who was in trouble, and I paid for it myself. How is that wrong?" Derek stopped pacing and looked directly at her. "It's wrong because I say it's wrong. I'm the manager here, not you. When you undermine my authority, you're undermining the entire operation." "I wasn't trying to undermine anything. I was just trying to do the right thing. The right thing is to follow company policy. The right thing is to check with management before making decisions that affect our business. The right thing is to Do your job and nothing more. Maria felt tears starting to form in her eyes, but she refused to let Derek see her cry. My job is to take care of customers, that's what I was doing. Your job is to follow orders, and since you clearly can't do that, maybe this isn't the right place for you. The words hit Maria like a punch to the stomach. She had been afraid. This conversation would go badly, but she hadn't expected Derek to threaten her job over one act of kindness. Are you firing me? I'm considering it. This isn't the first time you've had attitude problems, Maria. You think you're better than everyone else here. You think you know how to run things better than management does. That's not true. I just care about doing a good job. Caring about doing a good job means following procedures. It means respecting authority. It means not making me look bad in front of customers. Maria realized that this conversation wasn't really about the customer at table 12. This was about Derek's ego, his need to feel powerful and in control. She had bruised his pride by taking action without asking his permission first, and now he was going to make her pay for it. What do you want me to do? She asked quietly. I want you to apologize. I want you to admit that you were wrong to violate company policy, and I want your promise that nothing like this will ever happen again. Maria thought about her mother at home, about the medical bills that kept coming, about how desperately she needed this job. She thought about how easy it would be to just say the words Derek wanted to hear. But then she thought about Robert, sitting alone at table 12, grateful for a simple act of kindness. I can't do that, she said. Derek's eyebrows shot up. Excuse me? I can't apologize for helping someone, and I can't promise that I won't help people in the future. That's not who I am. Then you're fired. The words hung in the air between them. Maria felt like the wind had been knocked out of her. Even though she had seen this coming, hearing it out loud was devastating. Just like that, she asked. Just like that. Clean out your locker and get out, and don't expect a good reference from me. Maria nodded slowly. There was no point in arguing anymore. Derek had made up his mind before this conversation even started. Can I at least say goodbye to my coworkers? Make it quick, and don't cause a scene. Maria walked out of the office on shaky legs. The kitchen seemed quieter than usual, and she realized that everyone had been listening to the shouting match. Tony looked up from the grill with sympathy in his eyes. I'm sorry, kiddo, he said quietly. It's okay, Maria replied, though it definitely wasn't okay. She went to her locker and started pulling out her things. 3 years of her life reduced to a small pile of personal items, a spare uniform, some pain medication for her sore feet, a picture of her mother, and the emergency $20 bill she kept hidden in case she ever needed gas money to get home. Jenny appeared beside her locker. Maria, I'm so sorry, this is totally unfair. Thanks, Jen. Take care of yourself, okay? Other coworkers started, gathering around, expressing their support and disbelief at Derek's decision. But Maria knew their sympathy wouldn't change anything. Derek had the power, and he had used it. As she walked back through the dining room carrying her box of belongings, Maria noticed that Robert was still at table 12. He looked up as she passed, and his face immediately showed concern. Miss, are you all right? He asked. Maria managed to smile. I'm fine. I hope you enjoyed your breakfast. I did, very much. But what's wrong? You look upset. Maria glanced toward the office where Derek was probably watching. I'm just having a tough day, but thank you for asking. Robert studied her face carefully. This is because of me, isn't it? Because you helped me. It's not your fault, Maria said quickly. Please don't think that. But Robert wasn't fooled. He had been around long enough to recognize injustice when he saw it. As Maria walked toward the exit, he pulled out his phone and made a note of her name from her name tag. He also made note of what time this had happened and the name of the manager who had just destroyed a good person's livelihood over an act of kindness. Maria pushed through the front door of Rosario's for what she thought would be the last time. The morning sun felt too bright, and the parking lot seemed to stretch on forever. She sat in her old car for several minutes, trying to process what had just happened. She had lost her job for helping someone. In 3 years of perfect attendance and dedicated service, it all came down to one moment of compassion. As she drove home to tell her mother the devastating news, Maria had no idea that Robert was still inside the restaurant, making phone calls. That would change everything. Maria spent the worst night of her life staring at the ceiling. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Derek's angry face and heard his cold words echoing in her mind. She had replayed the conversation 100 times, wondering if she could have handled things differently. But deep down, she knew she would make the same choice again. Her mother, Isabella, had taken the news better than expected. "Mija," she had said, holding Maria's hands. "Sometimes doing the right thing costs us everything, but that doesn't make it wrong." Still, Maria couldn't shake the fear that was eating at her stomach. How would they pay the rent? What about her mother's medication? She had maybe 2 weeks of savings left, and that was if they were very careful with every penny. Around 11 that night, Maria's phone rang. She didn't recognize the number but answered anyway, thinking it might be about a job opportunity. "Hello, is this Maria Rodriguez?" The voice was professional, polite. "Yes, this is Maria. My name is Jennifer Chen, and I'm calling from the corporate headquarters of Rosario's restaurant group. We understand there was an incident at your location today, and we'd like to speak with you." Maria's heart started racing. Derek must have called corporate to make sure she couldn't get her job back or file a complaint. "Look, I don't want any trouble. Miss Rodriguez, you're not in trouble. We'd like to invite you to come to our main office tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. There's someone here who would like to meet with you." "About what?" "I think it would be better if we discuss this in person. The address is 1247 Corporate Drive, downtown. Can we expect you tomorrow?" Maria was confused but curious. What could corporate possibly want with her? "I guess so. Can you tell me what this is about?" "All I can say is that it concerns the events at your restaurant today. And Miss Rodriguez, please bring any documentation you might have about your employment. Pay stubs, schedules, performance reviews, anything like that." After hanging up, Maria couldn't sleep at all. She spent the night organizing her papers and trying to figure out what corporate could want. Maybe they were going to offer her a job at a different location, or maybe Derek had lied about what happened and they wanted to hear her side of the story. The next morning, Maria put on her best dress, a simple black one she usually saved for church, and drove downtown to the corporate office. The building was much fancier than she expected, all glass and steel reaching up into the sky. She felt out of place walking through the marble lobby in her old shoes. The receptionist was friendly and professional. "Miss Rodriguez, please have a seat. Someone will be with you shortly." Maria sat in a comfortable chair and looked around the waiting area. There were photos on the walls showing the history of Rosario's restaurants. She saw pictures of the first location from the 1960s, family gatherings and smiling employees. It looked like the kind of place that actually cared about people. After about 10 minutes, Jennifer Chen appeared. She was a woman in her 30s with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Maria, thank you so much for coming. Please follow me." They walked down a long hallway past conference rooms and offices. Maria caught glimpses of people in business suits having important-looking meetings. She felt more nervous with each step. "Just so you know," Jennifer said as they walked, "the person you're going to meet has some questions about yesterday's events. Please just be honest and tell your story exactly as it happened." They stopped in front of a large office with glass doors. Through the windows, Maria could see someone sitting behind a big desk, but the person had their back turned, talking on the phone. Jennifer knocked and opened the door. "Sir? Miss Rodriguez is here." The person in the chair turned around and Maria's world stopped. It was Robert. The same Robert from table 12, the elderly man she had helped just yesterday. But he wasn't wearing his old brown coat anymore. Instead, he was dressed in an expensive suit, sitting behind a desk that probably cost more than Maria made in 6 months. "Thank you, Jennifer," Robert said. "Please close the door and hold my calls." Maria stood frozen in the doorway, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. "I don't understand. What are you doing here?" Robert smiled. the same gentle smile from yesterday, but now it carried a weight she hadn't noticed before. "Please sit down. I know this must be confusing." Maria sat in the chair across from his desk, her mind racing with questions. Do you work here?" "I own here," Robert said quietly. "My name is Roberto Rosario. My father started this company in 1962, and I've been running it for the past 15 years. The words hit Maria like a truck. Roberto Rosario. She had heard that name before. He was the CEO, the big boss, the person whose picture hung in every restaurant's break room. And yesterday she had served him breakfast and paid for his meal with her tip money. But you said you forgot your wallet. You said you were on a fixed income." Roberto nodded. "I lied about those things, and I'm sorry. But everything else was true, about being grateful for your kindness, about it meaning a lot to me. That part was completely honest. I don't understand. Why were you pretending to be someone else?" Roberto leaned back in his chair. "For the past 6 months, we've been getting complaints about several of our locations. Customers saying they felt unwelcome, employees reporting unfair treatment, general complaints about the atmosphere not feeling like the family restaurant we're supposed to be. So I decided to visit some locations myself, without anyone knowing who I was." "You were spying on us?" "I was trying to understand what was going wrong. When you own a company, people tell you what they think you want to hear. The only way to get the truth is to see it for yourself." Maria was still trying to process everything. "So yesterday was some kind of test?" "Not exactly. I really did come in for breakfast, and I really was observing how things worked. But I didn't plan what happened. When I saw how you treated me, a customer you thought was just some old man with no money, I knew I was seeing the real you." Roberto stood up and walked around his desk to sit in the chair next to Maria. "Can you tell me exactly what happened after I left yesterday?" Maria told him everything. The confrontation with Derek, the firing, the humiliation of being escorted out in front of everyone. As she talked, Roberto's expression grew darker and darker. "And Derek told you this was because you violated company policy?" "Yes. He said I was being insubordinate and that I made him look bad." Roberto was quiet for a long moment. "Maria, I founded this company on the principle that we treat every customer like family. My father taught me that kindness and respect aren't just nice ideas, they're good business. What you did yesterday wasn't a violation of our policies. It was exactly what our policies are supposed to encourage. But Derek was wrong, completely wrong. And what he did to you was not just unfair. It was the opposite of everything this company stands for." Maria felt tears starting to form. "So I wasn't wrong to help you?" "You were absolutely right to help me. And if we had more employees like you, we wouldn't be having the problems we're having." Roberto walked back to his desk and picked up a folder. "I've been reviewing your employment file since yesterday evening. 3 years of perfect attendance, excellent customer reviews. Your coworkers all say you're the hardest worker they know. And this is how Derek treated you? He never liked me much. I think he thought I was trying to make him look bad. The only person making Derek look bad was Derek himself." Roberto sat back down. "Maria, I want to offer you something, but first I need to ask you a question. If you could change things at that restaurant, if you had the power to make it better, what would you do?" Maria thought about all the problems she had seen over the past 3 years. "I would make sure employees felt valued. I would train managers to support their staff instead of bullying them. I would bring back the family feeling that made people want to come here in the first place." Roberto smiled. "That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say." He opened the folder and pulled out some papers. "I'm offering you a position as regional operations manager. You'd be responsible for overseeing several restaurant locations, with a focus on employee relations and customer service. Your job would be to make sure what happened to you never happens to anyone else." Maria stared at the papers, unable to believe what she was hearing. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. The salary is $65,000 a year, plus benefits and a company car. You'd start Monday. But I don't have management experience. I don't have a college degree. You have something more valuable than a degree. You have heart. You understand what this business is really about. Roberto paused. And your first assignment would be to go back to your old restaurant. Derek will be cleaning out his office today. Maria felt like she was dreaming. 24 hours ago, she was a struggling waitress worried about paying bills. Now she was being offered a chance to not just change her own life, but to help other people in situations like hers. There's one condition, Roberto added. I want you to promise me that you'll never stop being the person who paid for a stranger's breakfast with her own tip money. That's the person I'm hiring. Through her tears, Maria managed to smile. I promise. Maria spent the weekend in a daze, still trying to believe that her life had completely changed in just 3 days. She had signed all the paperwork at corporate headquarters and received her new employee packet, company credit card, and keys to a brand new car. But the part she was most nervous about was returning to her old workplace on Monday morning. Not as a fired waitress, but as Derek's new boss. Roberto had been clear about what needed to happen. Derek would be terminated immediately, and Maria would take over managing the location while they searched for a new permanent manager. It felt like something out of a movie, but it was really happening. Sunday night, Maria sat with her mother at the kitchen table looking at her new business cards. Regional Operations Manager. The words still seemed impossible. I'm so proud of you, mija, Isabella said, tears in her eyes. Your grandmother would have been proud too. She always said kindness comes back to you when you least expect it. I just hope I can do a good job. I've never managed anything before. You've been managing our household and taking care of me for years. You know how to lead with your heart, and that's the most important thing. Monday morning came faster than Maria expected. She put on her best business outfit, a navy blue suit she had bought over the weekend with her new company credit card. Looking in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. 3 days ago, she was putting on a faded uniform and dreading another day of Derek's attitude. Now she was dressed like the professional she had always dreamed of becoming. The drive to the restaurant felt strange in her new company car. Instead of worrying about whether her old Toyota would make it another day, she was driving a reliable vehicle with full insurance and maintenance coverage. But as she pulled into the parking lot of Rosario's, her stomach started doing flips. Through the windows, she could see the breakfast rush in full swing. Tony was at the grill, Jenny was running around with coffee pots, and everything looked normal. The only difference was that Derek's car wasn't in its usual parking spot. Maria took a deep breath and walked through the front door. The bell chimed just like it always had, but everything felt different. A few customers looked up, probably wondering who the woman in the business suit was. Jenny was the first to spot her. The young waitress nearly dropped her coffee pot when she saw Maria walking through the dining room. Maria, what are you doing here? Before Maria could answer, Tony called out from the kitchen. Well, I'll be damned. Look who's back. His voice carried a mixture of surprise and happiness. Other employees started gathering around, confused but excited to see their former co-worker. Maria had always been popular with the staff because she helped everyone and never acted like she was better than anyone else. Is Derek rehiring you? Asked Carlos, one of the cooks. Not exactly, Maria said, trying to keep calm. Is Derek here yet? He's in the office, Jenny said. But Maria, be careful. He's been in a really bad mood since Friday. He's been telling everyone that corporate is sending someone to inspect the restaurant because of complaints. Maria almost smiled. Derek had no idea how right he was. Corporate was sending someone. That someone was her. Actually, I need to speak with Derek. Could you ask him to come out here? Jenny looked confused but nodded. She walked to the back office and knocked on the door. Maria could hear muffled voices, and then Derek's loud, annoyed voice saying something about being busy. A minute later, Derek emerged from the office looking frustrated. He was straightening his tie and had clearly been expecting to meet some corporate executive. When he saw Maria standing in the dining room, his face went through about 5 different expressions in 2 seconds. What the hell are you doing here? Derek demanded, loud enough that several customers turned to look. Derek, I need to speak with you privately, Maria said, maintaining her professional tone. You've got some nerve coming back here after what happened. I told you, Derek. Maria's voice was firm but calm. Office. Now. Something in her tone made Derek pause. Maybe it was the confidence in her voice, or the way she was dressed, or the fact that she wasn't acting like the submissive employee, he remembered. He looked around at all the staff and customers watching the interaction. Fine, but this better be quick. They walked to the back office with every employee in the restaurant watching them go. Maria could hear whispered conversations starting up behind them. She knew the whole staff was curious about what was happening. Derek closed the office door and immediately went on the attack. I don't know what game you're playing, but you can't just show up here and, Derek, sit down, don't tell me what to do. I'm the manager here, and I want you out of my restaurant right now. Maria pulled out her new business card and placed it on the desk. Derek glanced at it, then looked again more carefully. His face went white as he read the words, Regional Operations Manager, and saw the corporate logo. What is this? He whispered. It's my new position. As of today, I'm your supervisor. Or rather, I was going to be your supervisor. Derek sat down hard in his chair, staring at the business card like it might bite him. This has to be some kind of joke. It's not a joke. On Wednesday, I had breakfast with Roberto Rosario himself. He was the customer at table 12, the one you fired me for helping. Derek's mouth fell open. That's impossible. Roberto Rosario doesn't eat at regular restaurants. He has people for that. He was doing undercover visits to see how locations were really operating. He saw everything, Derek. He saw how you treated me, and he saw how you treated a customer you thought was just some poor old man. But I was following company policy. No, you weren't. You were following your own ego. Roberto made it very clear that what I did, helping a customer in need, was exactly what company policy encourages. Derek was starting to panic. Maria could see the sweat forming on his forehead as he realized how badly he had messed up. Look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. I was having a bad day and I might have overreacted. Derek, you're fired. The words hung in the air. Derek stared at her like she had just spoken in a foreign language. You can't fire me. You're just a waitress. I was a waitress. Now I'm a regional operations manager, and you're terminated. Effective immediately. Maria pulled out an envelope from her briefcase, another thing she never thought she'd own. This is your termination letter. Corporate HR has already processed all the paperwork. You have 30 minutes to clean out your desk and leave the premises. Derek grabbed the letter with shaking hands and ripped it open. As he read the official corporate letterhead and Roberto Rosario's signature at the bottom, the reality of the situation finally hit him. This is because of that stupid customer? Because I enforced the rules? This is because you fired a good employee for showing compassion? This is because you created a hostile work environment? This is because you forgot that this business is about treating people with respect? Derek slumped in his chair, defeated. For a moment, Maria almost felt sorry for him. Almost. What am I supposed to tell people? How do I explain this? You tell them the truth. That you learned an expensive lesson about treating people badly. Derek slowly started pulling items out of his desk drawers. Maria watched him pack up 3 years of work into a cardboard box, remembering how it felt when she had done the same thing just 5 days ago. For what it's worth, Derek said quietly, you're probably going to be a better manager than I was. It was the closest thing to an apology she was going to get. After Derek left, Maria called all the employees together. She stood in the dining room, looking at the faces of people who had been her co-workers just days before. I know this is confusing, she began. A lot has happened in the past few days. Derek is no longer with the company, and I've been asked to take over management of this location. Tony grinned and started clapping. Soon the whole staff was applauding and cheering. Jenny had tears in her eyes. This is like a fairy tale, Jenny said. The good person actually wins for once. It's not a fairy tale, Maria replied. It's what happens when we remember that kindness matters. When we remember that we're all human beings deserving of respect. Over the next few months, Maria transformed the restaurant. She implemented new policies protecting employees who went above and beyond for customers. She established a fund to help staff members facing financial hardships. She created clear advancement opportunities based on merit and dedication rather than favoritism. The changes weren't just on paper. The atmosphere in the restaurant became warmer and more welcoming. Employee turnover dropped to almost zero. Customer satisfaction scores reached the highest levels in the restaurant's history. Most importantly, Maria never forgot the lesson that had changed her life. Every day, she looked for opportunities to show kindness to customers and employees alike. She remembered that everyone has a story, everyone faces struggles, and sometimes the smallest act of compassion can change everything. 6 months later, Maria received a letter from a customer. It was from an elderly man who had been helped by one of her waitresses when he couldn't afford his full meal. The waitress had quietly covered the difference with her own money, just like Maria had done. "I wanted you to know," the letter said, "that your employees' kindness meant the world to me. In a world that often feels cold and uncaring, it's nice to know there are still good people out there." Maria smiled as she read the letter. She had created something more valuable than just a successful restaurant. She had created a place where kindness was valued, where treating people with dignity wasn't just policy, it was a way of life. And it all started with a $9 breakfast and the decision to do what was right, regardless of the cost.